It all started about 2 weeks ago. I lived in Austin with my girlfriend, and since I had some financial problems, I just moved in with her. Since she was my only ride, I would go with her to her job at a nearby daycare center and from there walk to my job at the pharmacy down the street. There was this little boy who looked about 5 years old or so, who went to the daycare and for some reason was always hovering around me or talking to me. He never really seemed to socialize with the other kids, so I didn't mind, but every single time I was leaving he would always follow me to the door, lightly tug my shirt and ask, "Won't you stay and play with me?" But one night one of my coworkers didn't show, so my boss told me I had to close up. I knew I would have to walk home, but I would get better pay, which would really help with the slowly climbing bus bill. Finally, at about 12:30 I closed up and began walking home. All was going well until I noticed a small group of guys started following me and kept on moving closer until the point where I broke out into a frantic sprint. The first couple of times I felt bad and would stay a little longer until I could sneak away, but after a while it began to really bother me and I would swear each day his voice would get deeper and more distorted until I finally decided to just take the bus each day instead. Even though it meant I would have to sprint after work to catch it and a combined $6 at the end of the day, I was fine with it. They began chasing me and I realized they were gaining up on me. I ran into a small alley and glanced back at them, but when I turned around the fire escape ladder came out of nowhere and before I could stop I went headfirst into the ladder and blacked out. When I finally came back to my senses, I was in a dark, murky apartment. My head was aching with pain and I was sprawled out on the cold, hard floor. I glanced at the digital clock on the floor which read 3 o'clock. My thoughts were cloudy and before I could gather them I felt a faint, ice-cold breath run down my neck which sent ice up my spine. I slowly turned around to see the little boy sitting there with his face shadowed by the darkness. He slowly began to levitate into the darkness until I could barely see his shape at all. Then as dark, thick blood started trickling from his bright white eyes in a non-human, non-earthly voice it said, "Won't you stay and play with me?"